Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I've got about 2.5 bill that I'm going to take to the Grand Exchange to flip some items and make some bank. We're going to shoot for a 10 mil an hour goal. If we hit that, I'll be extremely satisfied. Before we hit the Grand Exchange, be sure to drop a like and let's get into it. We're at the Grand Exchange and I've got all my money in my inventory. What I'm thinking of doing for this session is to keep it kind of chill and flip some easy items to make some easy profit. Of course, we're also going to talk about the flipping strategy that we use as well. The first item I'm going to flip is the Elysian Spirit Shield. Now, the Elysian has been looking pretty stable for the past few hours or so. I think it's a good time to go in and flip one of these. Also, the Ancient God Swords are showing an amazing margin. This is an item that got propped up by the Desert Treasure 2 update as well. And as you can see, the margin did spread out quite a bit on these. A 760k margin on them currently. Don't know if we're going to be able to flip any for that margin, but it is a promising sign that we'll be able to make some cash from flipping that. Another item I do want to try doing as well is the Soul Reaper Axe, but recently the price has just been bouncing around way too much. I wish we started the episode like maybe an hour ago because we could have got one for around 670 mil and potentially sold it off for like a 10 mil profit, which would have been incredible considering this is way past the update day. But I think we'll stick to things like some Torva pieces and some maybe lighter stuff that doesn't cost as much money. That way we can showcase a few more flips that you guys can use as well to make some bank. If you're looking for an item that has been good recently that is also a bit on the cheaper side, I'd recommend these chromium ingots. Now, I don't think these will be good forever, but right now I've been able to trade them for a pretty good margin. I buy and sell them for around 80k each, which leaves me at like a 600k profit for the entire flip. But I can't remember if the buy limit is 8 or 15. I'm going to list 15 and see if they end up buying. Now, the reason I say this won't be a good flip forever is because the chromium ingot is still a relatively new item, and when new items come into the game, the margins tend to be a lot better because there's just less in circulation. Trade might take a little bit longer, but the margin is a lot stronger. Okay, 5 minutes into the session and we have all of our flips listed. I just wanted to remind all of you that remember during these flipping sessions, we're trying to trade items relatively quick, even on these slower trades. Now, the reason we're doing that is because we are active flipping, which is a style of flipping where you're standing at the Grand Exchange, you're trading items back and forth, and honestly, you're flipping anything that you see that has a good margin, as long as you think you can flip it successfully. This is a style of flipping that used to be a lot more popular before taxes were implemented into the game. But now that taxes are in the game, it's more favorable for larger cash stacks to actually flip actively than it is compared to smaller cash stacks. But of course, with that being said, we do have a ton of flipping guides on the channel, so if you are new to flipping and you're trying to learn more about it, definitely check us out and check out the channel. We also have a Discord group dedicated to flipping and money making, so I'd highly recommend checking that out as well, with the link in the description below. We were able to buy a harmonized orb, which I think we might be able to get like a 3 mil margin on right now. I just looked at the price over on the price cloud and it's currently going for like a 3.9 mil margin. It did buy a lot faster than I expected as well. So what I'm going to do is list this back for probably around like a 3.4 mil margin, and we'll try to sell this off relatively quickly. That way we can just get in and out of the flip and hopefully flip another one of these as long as it works out. You'll notice that with my active flipping, I'm more focused on doing a quick trade for a decent bit of profit than a larger trade for a lot of profit. If I was flipping over a longer time frame, then I would focus on maximizing the profit a little bit more because you actually have more time for the trade to work out in your favor. The price will fluctuate a lot more over a 4-hour span compared to a 1-hour span, or an 8-hour span compared to a 4-hour span. That's why overnight flipping, you can get some really cheap prices and turn those around and sell them for a massive profit because you're allowing the market to move and make a ton of price movement. So if you buy cheap and the price moves up, you can make a lot of money. Of course, this does work in both directions, but that is the whole concept of flipping, is trying to get in at the best price possible over your selected time frame. And of course, as soon as we bought the Ultor ring, it feels like it starts to crash on us. It's currently selling for 133 mil at its high price, so we will wait a little bit longer to see if that swings in our direction. Like I mentioned before, the newer items tend to be larger margins and be a bit more volatile, as there just are not as many in game, so this actually might work out in our favor. But we do have our first flip going through here. The Awakener's orb is selling, so happy with that. 32k profit for every single one that we flip at this price point, and we've got about 50 of them lined up. These Awakener orbs have been so good to me lately. We're already up 1.4 mil flipping them. We did buy the entire limit, so we won't be able to flip any more after the rest of these sell off, but they've just been an outstanding item. I mean, honestly, you don't need a lot to flip these, just 3 mil basically right now per orb you want to flip. If you have 10 mil, you can flip one at a time and comfortably flip other items at the same exact time if you'd like. Currently up about 1.6 mil on the session, primarily drawn by the Awakener's orb. We haven't been able to get a lot of big items moving quite yet, but once we do, I'm sure our profit per hour is going to go up a lot. It's just going to take a little bit of time to get those moving. All of the chromium ingots have sold. We made about 360k flipping all of the ingots, which is not amazing compared to how I usually do on them, but we'll definitely take that amount of profit. And now that we've got another slot open, I'm thinking of trying to flip some of the Venator bows, or excuse me, the Venator bows. I can never say it right the first time, as they have been pretty stable, and I think they're going to make for a really good flip. Before I forget, let me answer some questions that you guys left in the comment section of the last video, as I want to make sure that these flipping sessions are informative for all of you. So of course, if you guys do have any questions about how to flip in OSRS, definitely drop a comment on this video and I will answer it in the next video. The first question is coming in from Black Shadow, and he is asking, what is the best thing to do if it looks like you bought an item for too high? Should you dump it or should you wait it out? Honestly, there is no right answer to this question, but I get this question a ton, so let me share my thoughts on it. Basically, if you bought into an item for too high and now you can only sell it for lower, you have two options. You can sell it for a loss, or you can try to sell it for a break even or a small profit. In my experience, if I'm active flipping, I will tend to try to sell the item for break even or a small loss just to get out of the flip and do another item. That way I can make up for the loss that I might have incurred. Remember, when you are holding onto an item, you are giving up the ability to trade other items as you have your money locked up in that trade. If you are new to flipping or you are still learning how to flip, I do think taking a small loss on the item is not that big of a deal and is the correct play, especially if you are a beginner flipper. Anyway, before we get on to the next question, we are currently at a 4.2 mil profit on the session. We were able to sell the Ultor ring for a 1.5 mil profit, which is actually a lot better than I thought we would make out on that item. Thought we'd end up getting like 1 mil at the end, so having that extra 500k feels kind of nice. We're going in and trying to get another one around the first buy price that we had, see if we can get another one flipped. We also sold the Ancestral Rope Top, a little bit less profit on this one than I wanted, 300k. I know I said I wanted to keep it a chill flipping session, but we're 33 minutes in and we're not looking at a current profit that I'm satisfied with, so I'm going to try and flip the Soul Reaper Axe. This one has just been looking absolutely insane here, and honestly, I would not recommend trying to flip this. As you can see, it already bought, so that is already looking a little bit questionable. I'm feeling pretty good about it. We had a lot of luck with these a couple days back. Earlier last week, I was able to flip a few of these for a decent margin, so not too scared about it. We'll just definitely take a significant price reduction in our profit and hopefully move it a lot faster. Justy Bo asked, nice, I have 150 mil. Any suggestions on what sort of items to flip? Thank you. No problem, Justy. I've got you right here. I'll give you 2 ways you can find good items, and one is using a price website. For example, the OSRS Price Cloud. I use this a lot to screen for items, but if you just want some straight up ideas as well, some things that you should stick to are high volume related items. And you should try to trade these overnight, ideally, if you have 150 mil. You could flip them actively, but you won't really be making as much money there. But things like manta rays, monkfish, sharks, marks, any kind of food items, ammunition, dragon arrows would be a really good option, dragon darts as well. Amethyst crystal is one of my favorites. Mahogany planks are really good, oak planks too. Think of an item. If you find an item that you flip and it ends up working out really well for you, write it down. That is one of my biggest tips for all beginner flippers. If you create a flipping list of your favorite items to flip, when you sit down to go and flip more items, then you'll know exactly what you should check for first, and it will make your flipping a lot more efficient and you'll get a higher profit per hour. This is what I do personally, and I have a massive list that I use. But if you are just starting up and you really don't know where to start, like I mentioned earlier, we have a flipping list in our Discord group, so you can join us with the link in the description below. You can find the flipping list there, and that will get you started. Currently about 40 minutes into the session and only at a 4.2 mil profit right now. The session is looking a lot slower than I was hoping for, and we're really stale on a lot of this stuff, so I'm trying to move it around as best I can. We just had to relist the harmonized orb for pretty much like a 1.5 mil margin at this point, as we've gotten undercut a few times on the sell price. Not a big deal, we'll try to get this off quickly. That way we can flip another item in its place, as we do have 260 mil locked up in that. Pyro Computing asked, I just started flipping and he is amazed at how much money he's made. He's finally got enough for a T-bow, but he doesn't know what to look for. Oh my gosh, guys, we just sold the Soul Reaper axe. That is incredible. We'll get into that in a minute, but what Pyro Computing is looking for is how do I screen for items and decide which items are good to flip. Honestly, Pyro, for me, it is pretty simple. What I do is I just go to the price website. I look at all of the items near the top and just look at their largest margins. When I'm here, I'm looking for items that have large margins. Once I find an item with a large margin, I actually click into it and make sure the graph doesn't look super funky. In this situation here, actually, the Torva Full Helm looks like it's really posed to be a nice flip, as it kind of looks like it's bouncing off the bottom here in the very short term, which means we likely are going to be able to flip one for a higher price than what is currently being shown at. But honestly, all I look for is I go to this website, the Price Cloud, and I just screen for all of the good flips. And once I find them, I click into them to make sure there's no major issues with the graph. Something you really wouldn't want to try and flip. In fairness, it did work out for us here, but most of the time, if you see a graph like this, it means the flip is going to be quite risky to do. So I always avoid taking risky flips unless you're really trying to make some bank and you don't mind losing a lot of money as well. So another way you can look for good flips as well is if you actually go to your favorites tab, you can build out a favorites tab on the Price Cloud website and then click into it whenever you come to the site, and it will show you all the items you've marked in the past as one of your favorite flips, and that can just be an easy way to jump into your favorites. Thank you to all my viewers who submitted a question. I really like answering the questions and teaching you guys how to flip. So of course, if there's any more questions that have come up in this video from anyone, be sure to drop it in the comments below and I'll answer it on the next episode. But the Soul Reaper axe has sold for a 7.6 mil profit. I am a little bit nervous to go for another one, but I just might end up doing that. Although I'm going to wait a little bit at least to see how it actually ends up playing out. And I think we're actually going to do another Altor ring in its place, as the price on the Altor ring actually looks pretty stable right now. So it is definitely worth doing another flip there. When I look for items to flip, I look for consistency in my flips when I am active flipping, but when I'm overnight flipping, I want an item that has a little bit of price movement. That way, we can actually buy it for a cheaper price overnight and sell it in the morning for a lot of a higher price. Having some volatility on your overnight trades is actually not a bad thing. This Ancient Godsword is really not working out for us right now, and the Elysian Spirit Shield also is kind of a dud, so we're going to cycle out of both of these items. We're just going to sell the Ancient Godsword for probably like a 200k loss. Really not too unhappy about that. Pretty standard in a flipping session to take a loss here and there, so don't be discouraged if you lose a little bit of money, especially if you're new to flipping. If you're finding out that every once in a while you're losing a bit of money on a flip, or you might have a session where you actually end up losing money. Don't be discouraged. It's honestly a very common thing to happen in flipping, especially when you're new and trying to learn. Invest in the process, invest in learning how to do it, and I promise you in the long run, it is going to build your cash stack to incredible heights. Our first loss of the day on the Ancient God Sword, we actually ended up taking a 300k loss on that, so pretty small, and happy to see that it wasn't any worse than that, although we did hold that item for a very, very long time. What I'm going to try to do now is pull some money together to see if we can flip something more expensive, like a Twisted Bow, or maybe even as Tumekin's Shadow, and we'll see if we can do one of those. But before that happens, we might do something a little bit cheaper like these Primordial Boots, as they're looking like a decent margin right now. Nice, the harmonized orb sold off as well. We made a 1 mil profit on that flat pretty much, so not great considering how long we actually held on to it, but we did end up making a profit, and I'm not too upset about that. We'll try to move some items around here and make sure we can actually get some stuff moving. It's funny because I was talking about high volume flips and decided to do the Amethyst Crystal with like the 60 mil left I had in my inventory after listing everything else. And they're currently like crashing pretty hard, but we just sold some, so I don't really know what's happening there. That is a good example of an item that would be good overnight, where it's currently selling for around 1,825 on the price website, but in reality we actually sold some off for 1,899, so clearly there's some price instability there and potentially some opportunity overnight to flip that item. I'm currently seeing a pretty good margin on the Void Waker, so I'm going to list maybe one of these and also try and flip the Twisted Bow if we have enough cash left over to do so. I think we can buy some for around this price point, and we'll see if that works out. And we finished selling those Web Weaver bows, 700k in profit across all of those. Very happy with that. We also got a Void Waker as well, so we're going to try and sell this for like 159 million GP, and that should work out for us and probably net us around a 300k margin. Let's see if we can go a little bit bigger than that. Maybe sell it for 159,380,000. Get a little bit more profit out of it if we can. And we did sell that Void Waker for a 425k margin. Pretty strong for the Void Waker. Honestly, anytime I'm getting over 300k for flipping these, I'm pretty happy, and that's about what I expect to flip it for. But we'll go in and try to do another one for pretty much the same margin. Just past the 14 mil mark on the session, which feels pretty good. Market is kind of stale right now, not going to lie. We are having trouble moving a lot of the more expensive items, and that is a little bit discouraging from a profit standpoint. A lot of profit was driven by the Soul Reaper axe, but that just goes to show that sometimes all you need when you're flipping is a little bit of luck on your side to make some money. Most of the times in sessions like this where I don't see a lot of items moving back and forth, I'll rotate into doing overnight flips and just log off for the day. But if you really want to try and make some money and you can't log in later or whatever, just switch to higher volume items. The more volume an item has, the smaller the margin is going to be, but the quicker the flip is going to move. So you can rotate into high volume flips, make a little bit less profit, but actually get some cash flowing in. We did end up finishing that Osmuten's Fang flip for an 800k profit. That was pretty good, but it took a long time to get those off, so it would have been better if we sold for a little bit cheaper, made like 700k, 750k, and just got those off a lot faster. That way we could free the capital and flip something else. But of course, that's, an ideal world, and not everything is perfect. Wow, we are getting extremely unlucky with buying a lot of these flips. I'm going to rotate completely out of all of these items pretty much, and just try to do something else, I guess. I mean, we haven't got any luck on the Twisted Bow yet, which really stinks. And these Bandos God Swords have been sitting here for a while, as well as the Scythe, which I've already lowered in price once, and still don't have a lot of luck on that. We're probably just going to get out of these Bandos God Swords, sell them for their current market value, which will be a profit, and then just rotate into a bunch of new items. And there we go, rotated into a completely new set of flips. And the Soul Reaper axe was actually included in that. I've got this listed under margin just by like 2.5 mil because I want to play it safe on the axe. If we can't flip another one, not a big deal. We already got lucky flipping one for 7.6 mil, so not going to push my luck on those today. Also, the Missouri bodies looks like they've moved on the margin a little bit, so might adjust that in a second. And the scythe is really giving us some trouble, considering we haven't sold it in like 45 minutes or so. But on the plus side, we did sell the amethyst crystal. That made us about 110k total profit, which is pretty good for the amethyst crystal, and it's just a little bit of nice high volume profit to add to the cash stack. Currently, we have 14.5 mil in profit, but not really a lot of luck coming in from a lot of our items here, so I'm going to try to flip the Tumekin Shadow once or twice, and then we'll probably call it a session after that, because I do think a lot of our luck is drying up here. And a couple of our flips have sold. We're going to collect everything here. We didn't make that much on the Tumekin Shadow, only 385k, which is a little bit disappointing, but I do want to wrap up the session here. And for as far as the scythe goes, I think we're just going to leave this overnight. Currently, the scythe is selling for 480 mil, so I do imagine the scythe is going to sell soon. I'm going to leave it for another 10 minutes or so, and then wrap up this session with the 15.8 mil profit. It doesn't look like the scythe is going to sell, so I'm going to keep it listed overnight and see what happens with it. In this situation, I do want to try and sell this overnight, as I do think the scythe is due for some price recovery, since it's come down about 15 mil in price in the past 12 hours. Typically, when something falls very quickly in price, it does bounce back up as people buy in at the cheaper price, but this is definitely not guaranteed, so I'll keep you updated on if we make money on the scythe or not. At the end of our flipping session, we've made 15.8 mil over the past hour and a half. This was a decent flipping session. We definitely got pretty lucky with the Soul Reaper axe coming in at a 7.6 mil profit, but sometimes all you need is a little bit of luck when you flip. I'll put on screen right now if the scythe sold or not and for what price we got it. I don't plan on moving the price from the last sell offer, so it will likely be at that price. And if we lose a little bit of money on that, I will include it in the total profit as well. Anyway, thank you all for watching. If you have any questions about what to flip with your cash stack, drop it in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video.